The first time Clara Hayes saw the black car, she told herself it was nothing. Boston was full of expensive cars in winter. Black sedans sliding through snow like secrets. Beacon Hill had lawyers, surgeons, bankers, men who wore wool coats that cost more than her monthly rent and walked like the city owed them silence. A black car parked across from a bookstore should not have made her pulse climb into her throat. But this car came every night. Always at 9:17. Always with its headlights off. Always beneath the same crooked street lamp across from her little bookstore, where the snow piled against the tires and turned the windshield into a sheet of dark glass. Clara noticed patterns. She had built her life around them after the accident, because patterns made the world feel safe. Open the shop at 8. Light the cinnamon candle by the register. Refill the mystery shelf by noon. Drink chamomile at 4. Close at 9. Lock the door twice. Count backward from 10 before turning off the lights. Routine kept the nightmares away. Most nights. On the 7th night, the car was still there when Clara locked the front door of Hayes and Hollow Books and turned the brass sign from open to closed. Snow drifted softly against the window. Inside, the store glowed with warm amber lamps and old wood shelves. The kind of place tourists photographed, but rarely understood. It smelled of paper, tea, pine, and rain-damp coats. Clara loved every inch of it. The narrow aisles, the ladder on the back wall, the velvet reading chair near the fireplace, the bell above the door that sounded like something from another century. This store was her whole life. At least, it was the life she remembered. Outside, the black car waited. Clara stood behind the front window with a book clutched against her chest and watched the shadow inside the car move. A man. She could not see his face, only the outline of broad shoulders and one gloved hand resting near the steering wheel. Her breath fogged the glass. "Who are you?" she whispered. The man did not move. The street was almost empty. Snow muted everything. Passing traffic, distant sirens, the hum of city life. Boston looked beautiful when it lied. White rooftops, golden windows, cobblestones slick with ice, like a postcard hiding a crime scene. Clara reached for the blind cord. Before she pulled it down, the man's head turned. Not sharply, not guiltily. Slowly, as if he had known she was watching all along. A strange pressure filled her chest. Not fear exactly. Something older. Something her body recognized before her mind could name it. Then the nightmare flashed behind her eyes. A harbor at night. Cold water. A man shouting her name. Blood on snow. A ring slipping from her finger. Clara gasped and stumbled back, knocking a stack of paperbacks from the display table. The bell above the door trembled. Not rang. Trembled. Clara froze. The front lock clicked once. Then again. Someone was picking it from the outside. Her fingers went cold. The black car across the street was suddenly empty. The lock turned. Clara backed away, her pulse hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. She grabbed the only weapon near her, a heavy brass bookend shaped like a raven, and held it with both hands. The door opened 3 inches. A man in a gray mask slipped inside. He wore black gloves, a dark jacket, and boots that left wet prints on the floor. He did not look like a thief. Thieves looked around for cash drawers, security cameras, exits. This man looked straight at Clara. "Clara Hayes," he said. Her blood turned to ice. "How do you know my name?" He stepped inside and shut the door quietly behind him. The bookstore felt suddenly smaller. The aisles became shadows. The warm lamps felt fragile. The snow outside fell harder, covering the world that might have saved her. "Come with me," the masked man said. No noise. Clara lifted the bookend higher. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. "Get out." The man tilted his head. "You don't remember, do you?" The words cut through her harder than a threat. "Remember what?" He took one step toward her. The front window exploded. Not from a bullet. From a body. The masked man was thrown sideways as someone crashed through the door, so violently the bell ripped from its hook and skittered across the floor. A gust of snow followed him in. Wild and white. Clara screamed. The stranger from the black car stood in the doorway. He was tall, dressed in a black overcoat dusted with snow, his dark hair slick from the storm. His face was carved in calm violence, sharp jaw, unreadable eyes, mouth set like he had forgotten how mercy worked. He moved before Clara could blink. One hand seized the masked intruder by the throat and slammed him into the bookshelf so hard classics spilled around them in a storm of pages. The man in the coat did not raise his voice. He did not have to. Who sent you? The masked man choked, clawing at his wrist. Clara stumbled backward, breathing fast, the brass bookend still in her hands. The stranger looked at her then. For 1 second, the coldness vanished. His eyes changed, not softened. Broke. It was so quick she almost missed it. Clara, he said. Her name sounded different from his mouth, like a prayer he had no right to say. She tightened her grip on the bookend. Stay away from me. Pain flickered in his face, gone almost instantly. The masked man used the distraction to reach inside his coat. The stranger turned and slammed his hand down with brutal precision, knocking the weapon away before Clara could even see it clearly. Then he drove the man to the floor and pinned him there with one knee. He leaned close. I asked you a question. The masked man spit blood onto the floorboards. She belongs to Elias. The stranger went still. The name hit Clara like a slap. Elias, her brother, her careful, polished, protective older brother who called every Sunday and paid her medical bills after the accident. The brother who told her she was lucky to be alive. The brother who told her not to dig too deeply into memories that hurt her. The stranger's eyes lifted to Clara again. This time, there was no coldness at all. Only warning. You need to leave with me. Clara laughed once, breathless and terrified. I don't even know who you are. The man rose slowly. Behind him, the intruder groaned on the floor. Snow blew through the broken doorway around his black coat. Sirens wailed somewhere distant. Too far to matter. My name is Adrian Vale. The brass bookend nearly slipped from Clara's fingers. Everyone in Boston knew that name. Not from newspapers. His name rarely appeared there. It traveled in whispers. Adrian Vale owned the docks, no one inspected. The warehouses no one questioned. The judges who suddenly retired. The politicians who smiled too carefully. He was not a gangster in gold chains. He was worse. Quiet, educated, untouchable. A man who never threatened twice because no one survived ignoring him the first time. Clara had heard his name from customers who lowered their voices near the crime section. Adrian Vale, the man who controlled Boston's underground ports. The man sitting outside her bookstore every night. The man who had just saved her life. Clara's mouth went dry. You're him. His expression did not change. Yes. Why were you watching me? Adrian's eyes moved over her face slowly, as if every inch of her hurt him. Because the last time I looked away, he said, you disappeared. The words landed between them like a door opening into darkness. Then the masked man on the floor began to laugh. Go had. Go have. Go have. Go have. Go have. He rasped. That must hurt. Adrian's face turned empty. Clara did not see what happened next, only heard the impact, the sudden silence, and the heavy thud of the man collapsing unconscious. Adrian stepped over him and moved toward Clara. She backed away immediately. He stopped. The restraint in that single halt unsettled her more than if he had grabbed her. Do not run from me tonight, he said quietly. Why? Because there are 3 men outside the back entrance. 2 more at the alley. And if they get to you before I do, they will not ask nicely. Clara's throat tightened. How do I know you're not lying? Adrian reached into his coat. She flinched. He stopped again, jaw tightening, then slowly withdrew a phone and placed it on the table between them. On the screen was a live camera feed of her back alley. 3 men waited in the snow. One held bolt cutters. Another held a photo. Her photo. Clara's knees weakened. Adrian watched her carefully, but he did not touch her. Get your coat, he said. And go where? With you? Yes. You're a criminal. His mouth barely moved. Tonight, that may be the safest thing about me. The lights went out. The bookstore plunged into darkness. Clara gasped. Outside, the street lamp flickered. The storm pressed against the windows. Somewhere behind the store, glass shattered. Adrian crossed the distance and caught Clara by the wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to anchor her in the dark. She felt heat through his glove. A memory slammed into her, his hand around hers. A black ring, a whispered promise in a candlelit room. If you forget everything else, Clara, remember this, I will always find you. She pulled away with a sharp breath. Adrian looked down at her wrist, then released her instantly. What did you remember? He asked. The fear in his voice was carefully buried. Clara shook her head. Nothing. A lie. He knew it. Something heavy hit the back door. Once. Twice. Adrian turned toward the sound, his expression becoming the face men feared in dark rooms. "Stay behind me," Clara swallowed. "I don't take orders from strange men." For one heartbeat, despite the danger, his eyes almost warmed. "No," he said. "You never did." Then the back door burst open. The next few seconds came in flashes. Snow in the hallway. Boats on broken glass. Adrian moving like violence had been trained into his bones. A man slamming into the poetry shelf. Another dragged through the storage room door. Clara gripping the bookend with both hands, frozen between terror and disbelief. Then one attacker lunged toward her. Adrian crossed the room with impossible speed and placed himself between them. The man's blade sliced through Adrian's coat instead of Clara's sweater. Adrian did not even flinch. He struck once. The attacker dropped. Clara stared at the tear in Adrian's coat, at the dark line blooming beneath the fabric. "You're hurt." He looked at her as if she had said something unbearable. "It isn't yours." "What?" "The blood." His voice was low. "If it isn't yours, it doesn't matter." She hated the way that sentence moved through her. Hated the dark, impossible intimacy of it. A black SUV skidded to a stop outside the shattered front entrance. Two men in dark suits rushed in. "Boss," one said. "We have 60 seconds before police arrive." Adrian did not look away from Clara. "Take the shop's security drive. Remove the bodies from sight. No one touches her books." The man nodded like that was a normal order. Clara's anger cut through the fear. "No one touches my books? Are you insane? People broke into my store. Absizir. Absizis is a 9. 2. And they will never do it again. You don't get to decide that." Adrian stepped closer, snow melting in his hair, blood darkening one sleeve. "You can hate me in the car. I'm not going anywhere with you." His eyes flicked toward the back door. Then came the sound of another engine. Not police. More SUVs. Adrian's jaw tightened. "That is not a request anymore." Clara lifted her chin, though her voice shook. "You said you wouldn't make me afraid." His face changed. Not dramatically. Not enough for his men to notice. But Clara saw it. The words had hit something old inside him. "I said that before," he murmured. Her heart stopped. Before. He remembered a conversation she did not. Adrian removed his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders before she could object. His scent surrounded her: cold air, leather, cedar, and something painfully familiar. Then he turned to his men. "Bring the car to the door." Clara looked at the black sedan across the street. The one that had watched her for 7 nights, maybe longer. "Why every night?" she whispered. Adrian looked back at her. Outside, headlights swept across the bookstore walls. "Because every winter," he said, "you remember enough to become dangerous." Before she could answer, gunfire cracked through the snow. Adrian grabbed her and pulled her down behind the counter as the front window shattered inward. Books exploded from shelves. Glass rained over them. Clara pressed her hands over her ears, her breath coming in broken pieces. Adrian covered her body with his. Not clumsily, not romantically. Completely. Like his body was a wall, and he had already chosen what could break. His mouth was close to her ear. "Breathe, Clara." She squeezed her eyes shut. Another memory tore through her. Adrian younger, bleeding in the snow. Her own hands on his face. Her voice crying, "Breathe, Adrian. Please." She opened her eyes, shaking. He was staring at her. He knew, but he said nothing. His men returned fire from outside. The attackers retreated into the storm. Adrian rose, pulling Clara with him. This time, she did not fight. They ran through the broken bookstore into the snow. The black SUV door opened. Clara looked back once. Her little shop glowed behind her, wounded and full of shattered glass. The place she had built to feel safe. The life she had built to avoid the dark. Adrian's hand hovered near her back, not touching. "Clara." She turned. His face was hard again. Untouchable. Feared. But his eyes were not. "Get in the car." She did. And the moment the door shut, Boston disappeared behind tinted glass. Adrian Vale's penthouse sat above the harbor like a throne built for a lonely king. It occupied the top floor of a glass tower near the waterfront, where the city lights shimmered through the snow, and the black water below looked endless. Clara had expected gold, weapons, vulgar displays of power. Instead, she found silence. Dark wood floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A fireplace burning low. Shelves of first editions arranged with unnerving care. A grand piano. No one seemed to play. Security monitors hidden behind sliding panels. A world built for control, not comfort. Adrian's men vanished into corners, elevators, locked rooms. Clara stood barefoot on a heated marble floor, still wearing his coat, while a doctor stitched the cut along Adrian's arm in the kitchen like this was routine. Adrian did not take his eyes off her. It made her furious. "Stop staring at me." The doctor froze. One of Adrian's men looked down as if expecting the ceiling to collapse. Adrian only said, "No." Clara blinked. "Excuse me?" I tried not looking once. Silence stretched across the penthouse. The doctor cut the thread and stepped back quickly. "You're finished, Mr. Vale. Leave." The doctor left. So did everyone else. Clara suddenly wished they had stayed. The snow battered the windows. The fireplace cracked softly. Adrian stood by the kitchen island in a black shirt, sleeves rolled up, fresh bandage wrapped around one forearm. Without the coat, he looked less like a rumor, and more like a weapon someone had taught to wear human skin. Clara folded her arms. "I want answers." "You need rest." "I need answers." His gaze moved over her face, still stubborn. "Stop saying things like you know me." "I do know you." "No." Her voice sharpened. "You know a version of me I don't remember. That doesn't give you ownership." Something dark crossed his face. "I never owned you." "Then why were your cameras watching my shop?" "Because your brother's men were watching it first." Clara's anger faltered. Adrian walked to a cabinet, opened it, and placed a thick folder on the table. He did not push it toward her. He left the choice there. Clara stared at it. "What is that?" 7 months of surveillance. "Of me?" "Of threats around you." She opened the folder with shaking fingers. Photographs. Not of her inside her apartment. Not intimate. Not invasive. Men across the street from her bookstore. Vehicles parked too long. Fake delivery workers. A woman pretending to browse the romance shelf while photographing the back office door. License plates. Dates. Notes written in neat black ink. And one name circled again and again. Elias Hayes. Clara's stomach turned. "My brother wouldn't hurt me." Adrian said nothing. She hated him for that silence, for not making it easy to reject him. "Elias took care of me after the accident." "Yes." "He paid for my recovery." "Yes." "He helped me buy the bookstore." Adrian's jaw tightened. "With your money." Clara looked up. "What?" Adrian reached into the folder and removed a legal document. "The building belonged to you before the accident. So did 3 warehouses on the harbor, 2 trust accounts, and a controlling interest in your father's shipping company. Elias has been managing your assets under medical guardianship." "I don't have a shipping company." "You did." The room tilted. Clara gripped the edge of the table. "That's impossible." "No, it's hidden." She turned away, pressing a hand to her mouth. The firelight blurred. She thought of Elias's calm voice after the accident. "You were overwhelmed. You signed temporary control to me, so you could heal. You never liked the business side anyway." "What happened to me?" she asked. Adrian did not answer immediately. When she looked back, he seemed carved from restraint. "You were pulled from the harbor 3 years ago," he said. "Severe hypothermia, head trauma, no memory of the previous 18 months. Clara's breath caught. The harbor, cold water, a ring slipping away. "And you?" Adrian looked toward the dark windows. "I was told you were dead." The words were quiet. They struck harder because of it. Clara sank into a chair. "Who told you?" "Your brother." Her chest ached. "No. He brought me your coat, your blood on the sleeve, your ring." Clara touched her bare finger instinctively. Adrien saw. His expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. "You wore a ring?" His mouth tightened. "Yes." "Were we—" She could not finish. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You were mine by choice, not by law." Heat rose to her face despite everything. "That's not an answer. It is the only one you can handle tonight." Clara stood so fast, the chair scraped. "Do not decide what I can handle." There it was again, that flash in his eyes, pain wrapped in admiration. "You said that the night I met you." "I don't remember." "I know." The softness beneath those 2 words almost broke her. She looked away. "Why didn't you come for me?" The question came out smaller than she intended. Adrian's face shut down. "I buried you." Clara slowly turned back. "What?" "I stood at an empty grave while Elias cried in front of half the city." His voice remained calm, but each word seemed carved out of something raw. I killed 3 men that night because I thought they had taken you from me. I started a war that cost me ports, allies, blood, and all the while, you were 3 miles away in a private clinic under your brother's name. Clara felt sick. Adrian stepped closer, then stopped himself several feet away. When I found out you were alive, you had no memory of me. Your doctors said pressure could fracture what was left. Elias had legal control. Police were watching my every move. So I waited. Outside my bookstore. Yes. For how long? His silence answered. Clara's voice trembled. How long? 8 months. She stared at him. Every night. A black car beneath a street lamp. A monster in the snow. A guardian she had mistaken for a stalker. That's not normal, she whispered. No. It's obsessive. Yes. The honesty stunned her. Adrian looked at her without apology. I am not a good man, Clara. I will not insult you by pretending otherwise. I have done things that would make you step away from me if you remembered them all, but I have never lied to you about what I am. She swallowed. And what are you? His eyes darkened. The man who failed you once. The elevator chimed. Adrian moved before the doors opened. A woman stepped inside, elegant and sharp-eyed, wearing a camel coat over a black suit. Her silver hair was pinned at the nape of her neck. Adrian, she said, we have a problem. His face returned to stone. Isabel. The woman's eyes moved to Clara. For the first time that night, someone looked at Clara not like a victim, but like a ghost. Oh, Isabel whispered. It's true. Clara stepped back. Who are you? Isabel Vale, the woman said. Adrian's aunt. And once, your almost mother-in-law. The floor seemed to disappear beneath Clara. Adrian turned sharply. Enough. Isabel ignored him. She needs to know. She needs to stay alive. She needs the truth before Elias rewrites it again. Clara's pulse raced. Rewrites what? Isabel looked at Adrian. Something silent passed between them. Then Isabel said, Your brother is petitioning the court tomorrow morning to declare you permanently mentally incompetent. Once he succeeds, he can liquidate your inheritance, sell your bookstore, and transfer the harbor properties to the Marzano family. Adrian's eyes became lethal. The Marzanos. Even Clara knew that name. A rival mafia family from Providence, ruthless and old, with blood ties across the East Coast. Isabel placed a tablet on the table. A headline glowed across the screen. Local bookstore owner suffers psychological episode after violent break-in. Clara read her own name in the article. Her stomach dropped. They're saying I imagined it. Yes, Isabel said. And by morning, there will be footage showing you attacking a customer with a weapon. Clara looked toward Adrian. But your men took the security drive. Adrian's voice was cold, which means Elias had a second feed. Hidden surveillance. Inside her bookstore, the place she thought was hers. Clara felt something inside her crack open. For years she had blamed her own mind, her missing memories, her nightmares, her fear of water, her sudden panic when snow hit windows. Too hard. What if none of it was madness? What if she had been surrounded by lies so carefully arranged they felt like recovery? She gripped the table. I want to see my old life. Adrian's gaze sharpened. No. Clara laughed bitterly. There it is. You are not ready. You don't get to decide. If you walk into your brother's trap tonight, you die. Then come with me. The room went silent. Adrian stared at her. Clara forced herself to hold his gaze. You said you've been protecting me, so protect me while I get my life back. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Isabel looked almost amused. Adrian's voice lowered. You have no idea what asking me that means. Maybe I'm tired of everyone deciding what I don't know. The fire cracked behind them. Adrian stepped closer. This time, Clara did not move away. He stopped inches from her. Close enough that she could see the faint scar near his mouth. Close enough to feel the heat of him. Close enough that her body remembered danger and safety as the same thing. If I take you into my world, he said, I do not know how to give you back untouched. Clara's breath caught. Then don't pretend you were ever planning to. For one suspended second, his control fractured. His eyes dropped to her mouth. Clara's pulse became thunder. He lifted his hand as if to touch her face. Then stopped. His fingers curled into a fist at his side. No, he said, almost to himself. The denial stung more than a touch would have. Adrian turned away. Get her a coat, he told Isabel. Something warm. No trackers. Clara exhaled shakily. Isabel smiled faintly. Welcome back, Clara Hayes. They left the penthouse through a private elevator that opened into an underground garage filled with black SUVs. Clara stood between Adrian and his men, wearing a dark wool coat Isabel had given her, and boots that were half a size too large. The garage smelled of gasoline, snow, and leather. Men stopped talking when Adrian approached, not out of respect alone. Fear moved through them like weather. Adrian gave orders without raising his voice. 2 cars ahead, 1 behind. No police channels, no headlights once we reach the hill. A younger man with a scar near his eyebrow hesitated. Boss. If Elias has Marzano backing. Adrian looked at him. The man stopped speaking. Clara watched this exchange with a chill in her spine. Adrian did not perform power. He simply had it. His silence did what other men needed. Shouting to accomplish. They drove through Boston under a sky thick with snow. The city blurred past the tinted window gas lamps, brick townhouses, frozen trees, church steeples ghosted white. Clara sat in the back seat beside Adrian, trying not to notice how much space he took up while barely moving. His phone lit with messages he ignored. She looked at him. Where are we going? Your old house. I had a house? Yes. Did I live there with Elias? Adrian's eyes remained on the window. For part of your life. And the other part? With me. The answer made the car feel smaller. Clara looked down at her hands. Were we happy? Adrian was silent so long she thought he would not answer. Then he said, You were. She looked at him sharply. And you? His reflection stared back from the glass. I was less dead. The words settled inside her, dark and aching. The SUV turned onto a narrow road lined with old trees. At the end stood a stone house overlooking the frozen edge of the harbor. It was beautiful in a haunted way, with dark windows, ivy against the walls, and a wrought iron gate crowned with snow. Clara's chest tightened. She knew this place. Not clearly. Emotionally. Her hand reached for the door before the car stopped. Adrian caught her wrist. The touch was immediate, then restrained. Wait. She looked at his hand. He released her. Sorry, he said. The apology startled her. A man like Adrian Vale did not seem built for that word. His men cleared the property first. Then Adrian escorted her through the front door. The house smelled of dust and cold stone. Sheets covered furniture. Moonlight spilled through tall windows. Clara moved slowly through the foyer, her boots echoing on marble. At the base of the staircase, she stopped. A memory flickered. She was running down these stairs barefoot, laughing. Adrian stood below, younger, soaked from rain, holding a bouquet of white roses like he wanted to kill whoever had sold them to him. You're bleeding on my floor, memory, Clara had said. I missed you. You were gone 6 days. Then I missed you 6 days too long. The memory vanished. Clara swayed. Adrian was there before she fell, his hands hovering near her arms but not closing around them. What did you see? You brought me roses. His expression cracked. White, silent pain. I did. You hated them. I hated the florist. Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. Then she looked up the stairs. There's a room. Adrian's face hardened. Clara. She was already moving. The room was at the end of the upstairs hall. She knew before she opened it. Inside, moonlight revealed a bedroom untouched by time. Cream curtains, a reading chair, a vanity with a cracked mirror, a dried bouquet in a glass case, and along the far wall, shelves filled with books. Her books, every copy annotated in her own handwriting. Clara stepped inside as if entering the inside of her own skull. On the bedside table sat a framed photograph turned face down. She picked it up. Her breath stopped. It was her, and Adrian. They stood on the harbor in winter, her arms around his neck, his forehead pressed to hers. He was not smiling exactly, but something in his eyes was open, alive, devoted in a way that made him almost unrecognizable from the man beside her now. On Clara's finger was a black diamond ring. She touched the image with shaking fingers. We were engaged. Adrian stood in the doorway. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to remember me without being forced. Tears burned her eyes. She hated them, hated how vulnerable they made her. I loved you? His voice was barely audible. Yes. And you loved me? He looked at her like the answer had ruined him. I still do. The room fell silent. The confession should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt terrifying. Because Clara did not remember the love, but her body did. The way her breath changed when he was near. The way fear did not push her from him completely. the way his pain felt personal even when his life was a stranger's story. She set the photograph down. I don't know how to be her. Adrian's face closed. I am not asking you to. But you want her. His eyes sharpened. No. Don't Lee. He entered the room slowly, stopping several feet from her. I mourned her. I wanted her. I burned half this city for her. But the woman standing in front of me is not a ghost I get to drag backward. His voice grew rougher. You are Clara. Even if you never remember loving me, you are still Clara. That hurt worse, because it sounded true. A crash echoed downstairs. Adrian turned instantly. His hand went inside his coat. Clara's blood froze. A man shouted from below. Then another. Adrian grabbed Clara's hand and pulled her toward the wall, just as gunfire shattered the bedroom window. Glass sprayed across the floor. Clara screamed, ducking as bullets tore through the shelves, ripping through the books that had survived her forgotten life. Adrian shoved her behind the bed and covered her again. Always with his body first. Never with an explanation. His men returned fire from the hall. The house filled with chaos, boots, shouting, breaking glass, the thunder of violence muffled by snow. Adrian looked at Clara. Stay down. No. His eyes flashed. Clara, there's another way out. He stared. She did not know how she knew, but she did. Behind the wardrobe, Adrian's expression shifted from command to recognition. You remember. Move. They crossed the room low. Adrian shoved the wardrobe aside, revealing a narrow hidden door in the wall. Behind it, stone steps descended into darkness. Clara's heart pounded. How did I know this? Adrian pulled a flashlight from his coat. You built it. I built a secret tunnel? You said every woman who loves dangerous men should have an exit. Even in terror, the line shook something like a laugh out of her. They descended into the cold. The tunnel smelled of earth, salt, and old stone. Clara ran one hand along the wall as they moved, flashes of memory breaking through with every step, candles lining the passage. Adrian behind her, kissing her shoulder. Her own voice. Promise me you won't kill Elias. Adrian, do not ask mercy for men who sell you. Clara stopped. Adrian turned. What? I asked you not to kill my brother. His face went still. When? The tunnel, I remembered. He said nothing. Why would I ask that unless I knew he betrayed me? Adrian's eyes were dark in the flashlight glow. Because you loved him. The truth hurt, because she still did, in some wounded corner of herself. The tunnel ended at an iron door near the harbor. Adrian pushed it open into freezing wind. They emerged onto a private dock where black water slapped against the pilings. Clara froze. The harbor stretched before her, dark and endless. Her lungs locked. The cold, the water, the nightmare. Adrian noticed immediately. Look at me. She could not. The dock seemed to tilt. Snow spun in the wind. Somewhere behind her, men shouted from the house. But all she could hear was water. Her own screams trapped beneath it. Clara. Adrian stepped in front of her, blocking the view. Eyes on me. I can't. Yes, you can. His voice was firm, not gentle. An anchor. She grabbed his shirt with both hands before she realized she had moved. He went completely still. Breathe. I was here. Yes. I fell. His jaw flexed. You were pushed. The memory hit like a wave. Elia's voice. Clara crying. A document in her hand. Adrian's ring on her finger. You don't know what he is, Elias had said. I know exactly what he is. He will destroy this family. No, you did that. A shove. Cold air. Water. Adrian screaming her name from too far away. Clara came back to herself with a broken sob. Adrian's hands hovered near her face, shaking. Not much, but enough. Who pushed me? She whispered. Adrian did not answer. He did not need to. Behind them, a voice rang across the dock. I told you memory was dangerous. Clara turned. Elias Hayes stood at the end of the pier in a gray overcoat, snow gathering on his shoulders. He looked elegant, clean, brotherly. The kind of man who sent birthday flowers and knew which tea calmed her anxiety. Beside him stood 3 armed men, and next to them, an older man with silver hair and a wolfish smile. Adrian went deadly still. Dario Marzano. The older man smiled wider. Adrian, you always did look dramatic in the snow. Elias Gaz moved to Clara. His expression softened with practiced sorrow. Clara, step away from him. She stared at her brother. Every Sunday call, every medical appointment, every careful warning. Don't stress yourself. Don't read old journals. Don't go near the harbor. Adrian Vale is dangerous. Maybe he was right about that last part. But danger was not the same as betrayal. You pushed me, she said. Elias Sahil. It was an accident. You erased my memory. I saved your life. You stole my life. His face hardened for the first time. I protected you from becoming his wife. Adrian stepped forward. Every man on the dock raised a weapon. Clara grabbed his arm. He stopped. For her. The gesture did not go unnoticed. Dario Marzano laughed softly. There it is, the famous weakness. Boston's king on a leash. Adrian's voice was calm enough to terrify. Careful. Dario ignored him. Your brother made us a generous offer, Clara. Your properties, your harbor rights, your signature. In exchange, we remove Adrian from Boston permanently. Clara's stomach turned. Elias looked at her pleadingly. I did this for our family. No, she said. You did it because Dad left the company to me. His eyes flickered. There. The truth. Clara lifted her chin. Why? Elias's mouth twisted. Because you were always his favorite. The delicate one. The brilliant one. The one he trusted. And then you chose him. He pointed at Adrian with disgust. A murderer. A criminal. A man who would drown this city if you asked him to. Clara looked at Adrian. He did not deny it. That should have frightened her. Instead, it clarified something. Adrian had never pretended to be clean. Elias had worn goodness like a mask. Dario stepped closer. Enough family therapy. Bring her. 2 men advanced. Adrian moved. The dock erupted. 1 second he was beside Clara. The next, he was between her and the men. His movements sharp and controlled. Violence stripped of waste. His men emerged from the tunnel behind them, weapons drawn, but Marzano's men had the high ground. Gunfire split the night. Clara ducked behind a stack of crates as splinters flew. Adrian fought his way toward Elias. But Dario shouted an order, and one of his men grabbed Clara from behind. An arm locked around her throat. She kicked, clawed, slammed her heel down. Adrian. He turned. The sound of his name from her mouth did something to him. Not the way she had said it tonight as a stranger. The way she screamed it now with memory, fear, trust. His face changed completely. For the first time, Clara saw the man beneath the myth lose control. Adrian crossed the dock like a storm. The man holding Clara dragged her backward toward the water. Elias shouted, Stop! You'll kill her! Adrian did not stop. Clara bit the attacker's hand. He cursed and loosened his grip. Adrian reached them, seized the man, and tore him away from her. The 2 men collided against the railing. The attacker swung a blade. Adrian caught his wrist, twisted, and threw him down hard enough that he did not rise. Then Adrian turned to Clara. Snow clung to her hair. Her breath came ragged. Her eyes burned with tears and fury. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Behind Adrian, Dario raised a gun. Clara saw it before he did. Memory and instinct moved together. She shoved Adrian sideways. The shot cracked through the night. Pain burned across Clara's shoulder. She fell against him. Adrian caught her. For one breath, the world went silent. Then Adrian looked at the blood spreading across her coat. Everything human left his face. No, he whispered. It was not a word. It was a breaking point. Clara clutched his shirt. Adrian, his arms tightened around her. Across the dock, Dario smiled. That was his mistake. Adrian handed Clara to one of his men with terrifying gentleness. Hold pressure, he said. Then he walked toward Dario Marzano. No rage showed on his face. No shouting. Only silence. That was worse. Dario's smile faded. The fight that followed was fast and brutal, swallowed by snow and shadow. Adrian's men surged forward. Marzano's men broke formation. Elias tried to run toward the road, but Isabel appeared from the tunnel entrance with 2 armed guards and blocked him with the cold satisfaction of a woman who had waited 3 years for justice. Clara watched through blurred vision as Adrian disarmed Dario and forced him to his knees on the frozen dock. Dario spat at him. Kill me, and you start a war. Adrian leaned close. You started it when you touched her. Clara tried to speak, but pain stole her breath. Adrian looked back at her. Whatever he saw on her face stopped him. Not mercy. Here. That was the terrifying thing. He could have ended Dario there. Everyone knew it. Dario knew it. Elias knew it. Adrian's own men knew it. Instead, Adrian straightened. Take him alive, he said. Dario blinked in disbelief. Adrian's eyes stayed on Clara. She asked me once not to become a monster in her name, he said quietly. I remember even when she doesn't. Clara's tears slipped free. But she did remember. Not all of it. Enough. The black diamond ring. The harbor. The promise. His hand in hers. His voice against her hair. I will always find you. Adrian reached her as his men dragged Dario away. He dropped to his knees in the snow beside her, pressing his hand carefully over the wound while his face held more fear than she had ever seen in another person. Stay with me. Clara tried to smile. That sounds like an order. His mouth trembled once. Please. The word undid her. The feared mafia boss of Boston knelt in the snow, covered in blood and melting ice, begging like a man who had already lost her once and could not survive doing it again. Clara lifted her shaking hand to his face. This time, he did not stop her. Her fingers brushed the scar near his mouth. I remember the roses, she whispered. His eyes closed. And the tunnel. And the ring. And… Her breath caught. I remember loving you. Adrian went completely still. But I'm not her anymore, Clara said. His eyes opened. No. If I come back to you, it has to be as me. His hand covered hers against his face. As you, he said. Only as you. Sirens wailed in the distance. Isabel stood over Elias as he was forced to his knees. Clara turned her head and met her brother's eyes. For the first time, he looked afraid of her. Not Adrian. Here. Good. Clara's voice was weak but steady. Tell the police everything, she said. Or I will. Elias's face twisted. You'd destroy your own family? Clara looked at Adrian, then at the burning house lights behind them, at the harbor that had taken her past and returned it in pieces. No, she said. I'm done letting you call a cage a family. Adrian lifted her carefully into his arms. The pain made her gasp, and his jaw tightened as if he felt it in his own body. I can walk, she protested. I know. Then put me down. No. Even half-conscious, she glared at him. A faint shadow of something almost like humor touched his face. You can hate me in the ambulance. You're impossible. You remembered that too. Despite the pain, Clara let her head rest against his chest. His heart was pounding. Not calm. Not controlled. For her, the monster was terrified. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic, snow-damp wool, and Adrian's expensive coffee. Clara woke to gray morning light and the steady beep of a monitor. Her shoulder ached sharply. A lecture from a surgeon who had looked pale after realizing who stood beside her bed. Adrian sat in the chair near the window. He had not changed clothes. His black shirt was wrinkled. His hands were clean, but faint bruising marked his knuckles. He looked like he had threatened death into waiting outside the room. Clara watched him before he noticed she was awake. In sleep, or whatever half-rest he had allowed himself, his face looked younger, not softer, just exhausted. Were you planning to stare at me all morning? She asked. His eyes opened immediately. There he was again, control returning like armor. Yes. Clara sighed. At least you're honest. He stood and came to the side of the bed, stopping just short of touching her. How's the pain? Annoying. That is not an answer. It's the one I'm giving. His mouth barely curved. A nurse entered, saw Adrian, and almost dropped the chart. Clara gave her a tired smile. He looks scarier than he is. The nurse glanced at Adrian's cold expression. Clara amended. To me. After the nurse left, Adrian looked at her with something unreadable. You defend me now? I clarified. You said I'm less scary to you. You are. That may be unwise. I've been making unwise choices since I let a mafia boss kidnap me from my bookstore. I rescued you. You abducted me with excellent timing. A silence followed. Not empty. Alive. Adrian looked toward the window. Your brother confessed enough to stop the competency petition. Isabel has the legal team moving. The bookstore is yours. The harbor properties too. Dario Marzano is in federal custody. And Elias? Adrian's face hardened. Alive. That sounded difficult for you. It was. Clara studied him. Thank you. His eyes returned to hers. For not killing him? For listening to me. The words seemed to land somewhere deep. Adrian looked away first. That surprised her. What happens now? She asked. You heal. And after that? Whatever you choose. Clara did not expect the answer to hurt. Maybe because some part of her had expected him to claim her. To demand. To reveal the possessive monster everyone whispered about. Instead, he gave her the one thing no one else had. Choice. She looked down at the bandage beneath her hospital gown. I don't remember everything. I know. Some memories come like broken glass. Some don't come at all. I know. I may never be the woman who wore that ring. Adrian reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the blanket. A black diamond ring. Clara stared at it. Her breath caught. You kept it. I buried an empty grave, he said. Not the ring. She touched it lightly. It felt familiar. Heavy with a life she had lost. Adrian's voice was controlled, but his hand flexed once at his side. I am not giving it back to ask anything from you. I am returning what was stolen. Clara looked up. He was already stepping away. Leaving. A strange panic tightened in her chest. Adrian. He stopped. Where are you going? To remove myself before you mistake gratitude for attachment. She almost laughed, except her eyes stung. You arrogant man. He turned slowly. You think I don't know the difference between gratitude and attachment? His gaze sharpened. I think trauma makes chains look like shelter. Then stop standing there like a prison door and sit down. For a moment, he looked almost undone. Then he returned to the chair. Not beside her bed. Near it. Still restrained. Still careful. Still dangerous. But there. Clara picked up the ring and held it in her palm. I don't know if I want forever. Adrian's jaw tightened. She continued. I don't know if I want marriage. I don't know if I want your world. I don't even know if I can step onto a dock without falling apart. I can wait. You've been waiting. Yes. That isn't healthy. No. She smiled faintly despite herself. You really don't defend yourself much. Not to you. The room softened around them. Snow began falling again outside the hospital window, light and slow over Boston. Clara looked at the ring. Tell me one thing. Anything. Did I love the bookstore before? Adrian's eyes warmed with memory. You wanted it more than anything. More than you? Yes. That made her laugh softly. His gaze dropped to her mouth at the sound. You said books were safer than men, he said. Then you said I was proof. That sounds like me. It was. Clara closed her fingers around the ring. When I rebuild it, I want no cameras inside. Adrian's expression went still. Done. And no men outside unless I ask. A pause. Clara. No. His mouth closed. She lifted an eyebrow. He exhaled slowly. Done. And if I do ask? His eyes darkened. Then no one gets within 50 feet of your door. There he is. I never left. That was the problem. That was the pull. The danger did not disappear because Adrian loved her. Love did not make him harmless. It made him focused. Devoted. Terrifying in a direction that now included her heartbeat. Clara understood that. She also understood something else. She was no longer the woman standing behind a bookstore window, afraid of the black car in the snow. She was the woman who knew why it had been there, and she would decide what that meant. 3 weeks later, Hayes and Hollow Books reopened during the first clear night after a long Boston storm. The front window had been replaced. The shelves repaired. The bell above the door rehung. Clara insisted on doing most of the work herself, though Adrian's men appeared mysteriously whenever anything heavy needed lifting and vanished whenever she glared at them. There were no cameras inside, no hidden feeds, no second locks Elias could control. The store smelled like fresh wood, old pages, and cinnamon again. Customers filled the aisles, whispering about the scandal that had consumed Boston for weeks. Elias Hayes arrested for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Dario Marzano's network collapsing under federal investigation. The Hayes shipping inheritance restored to its rightful owner. Adrian Vale never officially named in any report, though everyone knew his shadow stood behind every closed door. Clara wore a cream sweater, and her hair pinned loosely at her neck. The bandage beneath her sleeve still pulled when she moved too fast, but she liked the ache. It reminded her she had survived something real. Not imagined, not rewritten. Real. By 8:30, the crowd thinned. Isabel bought 3 rare poetry collections and kissed Clara's cheek like she had always belonged to the family, but was too polite to say it. At 9, Clara turned the sign to closed. Then she looked outside. A black car sat beneath the street lamp. For a moment, the old fear stirred. Then the back door opened. Adrian entered carrying 2 paper cups of tea and 1 small white box from the bakery down the street. The bell chimed above him. He stopped just inside the door, as if waiting for permission to cross the threshold. Clara looked from him to the car outside. I said no men watching my store. They are not watching the store. Adrian, they are watching the street. She gave him a look. He set the tea on the counter. I can send them away. She studied him. The feared man of Boston stood in her little bookstore, with snow in his dark hair and tea in his hands, trying to look like he was not prepared to buy the entire block if a single shadow moved wrong. Not tonight, she said. Something eased in his face. He walked closer, but stopped at the counter. Always waiting now. Sometimes it annoyed her. Sometimes it healed something. Clara opened the white box. Inside was a single pastry and a white rose. She lifted the rose, amused. Still hate the florist? I threatened him less this time. Growth. His mouth almost smiled. She came around the counter and stood in front of him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The shop glowed around them. Snow tapped the new window. Books stood in quiet rows like witnesses. Outside, Boston moved in muted silver and gold. Clara reached into her pocket. Adrian went still when she opened her palm. The black diamond ring rested there. I'm not putting it back on tonight, she said. His face remained controlled, but his eyes gave him away. I know, but I don't want it in a drawer. She took his hand and placed the ring in his palm. Keep it, she said, until I ask for it. His fingers closed around it slowly. You trust me with it? I trust you to wait. The words struck him harder than any confession. He looked down at her, and for once, the silence between them did not feel like a wall. It felt like a bridge. Clara lifted her hand and touched the scar near his mouth, the same place she had touched on the dock. Adrian closed his eyes briefly, like her fingers were both mercy and punishment. I'm still afraid of parts of you, she whispered. You should be. I'm still angry. You should be. I still don't remember everything. You do not owe me memory. Her throat tightened. What do I owe you? His eyes opened. Nothing. That was the answer that broke through every defense she had left. Not because it was grand, because it was restraint, because Adrian Vale, who could command a city with a look, was offering her nothing but space and truth. Clara rose onto her toes and kissed him. It was not the kiss of a woman returning to an old life. It was cautious at first, present, chosen. His body went rigid with the force of holding himself back, until Clara's fingers curled into his shirt, and she whispered against his mouth, You can kiss me back. The sound that left him was almost pain. Then he kissed her like a man remembering light after years underground. Not gentle exactly, never harmless, but controlled, reverent, devastatingly restrained. His hand settled at her waist, careful of her healing shoulder. Clara felt the strength in him, the danger, the hunger he kept caged, because she mattered more than his need. That restraint moved through her more deeply than possession ever could. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. Outside, the black car remained beneath the street lamp. But now Clara saw it differently. Not as a cage, not as a threat, as a reminder that monsters could guard doors too. Adrian's voice was low. Tell me to leave if you need me to. Clara looked around her bookstore, her shelves, her windows, her life rebuilt by her own hands. Then she looked at him. Stay until the snow stops. His eyes darkened with emotion he still did not know how to show safely. And if it snows all night? Clara picked up his tea and handed it to him. Then I guess you'll have to read something. For the first time, Adrian Vale smiled. Not much. Just enough to change the whole room. He took the book she offered, sat in the velvet chair near the fire, and watched her move through the store like she was real, alive, and free. Clara turned off the front lamps one by one. The city outside faded. The snow kept falling. And in the warm glow of haze and hollow books, the most feared man in Boston sat quietly beside the woman he had loved, lost, found, and finally learned not to hold too tightly. Not because the danger was gone. It would never be gone. But because Clara Hayes had walked through the dark, remembered the truth, faced the brother who betrayed her, and chosen her own ending. And Adrian Vale, who once believed love meant guarding her from the world, finally understood the harder devotion. Letting her open the door, letting her decide who came in, letting her choose him. Outside, beneath the street lamp, the black car disappeared into the snow. Inside, Clara leaned against Adrian's chair, opened a book, and began to read aloud. His hand found hers in the quiet. This time, she did not pull away.